Hello, everyone. I'm Frank Fumi, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. We are here in Las Vegas at the 2025 IFA Annual Convention. Super excited to interview franchise founders and industry pros. I've got John Ohlwiler, the CEO of Sentry Technology Solutions. John, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Welcome. And so tell us a little bit about your company.
So Sentry Technology Solutions, we're a managed service provider and IT consulting firm out of Orlando, Florida. We just recently joined the IFA and are a new supplier.
Congrats.
Yeah, it's been really, really fun. Just being that we're in our first 2 to 3 months with the IFA, this is a big event to come to. Mm-hmm. Lots going on, lots of people, lots of things to learn, lots of connections being made. It's very interesting.
Well, it's a generous community. You will catch on very quickly. Everybody's here to help.
Yeah, it's been great.
Okay, so the IT solutions that you provide, give me like the top 3 solutions that an emerging franchisor needs you for.
Okay. So we've been in business for about 10 years, and obviously we work with a lot of general businesses first before we kind of stumbled into franchising. Mm-hmm. And we developed a technology maturity model. So your first layer of that technology maturity model, it's kind of like math. You have, algebra and basic math, and then you get up into geometry, trigonometry, calculus. Everybody likes to talk about AI and automations and stuff, and that's kind of your calculus up here. Mm-hmm. But where I see a lot of emerging markets and stuff, and where we've dealt with the 2 or 3 franchise brands we've dealt with, have been trying to form their just basic IT operations, their basic security and compliancy, things of that nature, which are the lower levels.
Sure.
But after that, you get into business integrations. Mm-hmm. We start integrating all your data, analyzing your data, being able to make decisions on that data, be able to have cross-function type conversations with technology in other areas of your business. Mm-hmm. And then you get into the AI analytics, or AI automations, analytics, and deeper, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. I think most franchisors don't realize that they're really in the technology business, specifically in the data, that they're a data company.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is all about.
I believe all business is a data business, and all business is an IT business. If you look at the Fortune 10, mm-hmm. how many of them are truly backed or run on huge technology platforms?
Right.
So pretty much any big business nowadays, or even small business, is really it's driven by technology. There's nothing that happens without technology driving a factor.
Right. And I think it helps you as the tech solution when you're talking with a founder of an emerging brand to really explain that to them, because they're not necessarily in the analytics business when they start out. They're just trying to get their head above water. They're trying to sell a few franchises. They're trying to get to royalty self-sufficiency and get those franchisees successful, but they don't realize that the path to doing that is through analyzing their data and utilizing great services, like AI.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, your first IFA, you're a new member. What are you hoping to get out of this event?
I mean, really, we're just dipping our toe in the water to see what the franchising market's like, and is it something we want to expand a lot more in? Mm-hmm. And so far, the answer is yes on that, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and you told me before we started recording that you actually backed into franchising, right? 4 of your clients were in franchising,
right.
And that's why you stumbled into this.
So yeah, I've always had somewhat of a business mind, and 3 or 4 of our larger clients, better clients, are either a larger franchisee or an actual franchisor. Mm-hmm. And of the franchisors we worked with, it started getting into things like, okay, all of our franchisees accept credit cards, but we found out that a lot of our smaller franchisees aren't actually meeting PCI compliancy. And so that's a risk to the brand, regardless of whatever franchisee has a problem with that. That's a risk to the whole brand and the corporation and all together. And you get into things like maybe you're an accounting franchise, or you're doing something in healthcare with HIPAA, mm-hmm. or you're doing some of those other things. There's a lot of underlying security and compliancy concerns that are out there that you really need to worry about and build into your brand standard, or build into how am I going to handle that between the franchisor relationship,
right?
And how can I do that to scale? And so one of the brands that we worked with, there are about 14 different franchisees, mm-hmm. and they grew to that point, and they were operating kind of more on a way that was smaller, And they got to that 10 to 14 mark and realized this is not going to scale. We cannot maintain this, and we're not meeting the security requirements. And by the way, they were in taxes and accounting, so there's a lot of data, social security numbers, financial data, bank account information, things like that. And they realized how we're going to end up having to take over some of this as the franchisor, as the brand, and not leave it in the franchisee's hands. Or if we do leave certain things in the franchisee's hands, we have to highly monitor it or really ensure that it truly is meeting these things, more than just signing a piece of paper of saying, yeah, I meet PCI compliance here. Yeah, we believe we have these security controls. Do we actually have somebody who could audit that? Do we actually have a third party who could look into that? And when you get out of franchising into other businesses, you have things like SOC 2 compliancy and these other compliancies and government contracting, DoD contracting, things like CMMC, which require third parties to come in and validate. And not every franchise group is going to have to meet that, but those are things that are happening regardless of industry, regardless of franchise, just in business, and not just in America, and other countries too, where data and compliancy and what you're doing with your data, how you're protecting your data, how you're handling potential breaches or potential security concerns can really sink a brand. Regardless of how big you are, can really sink a brand.
Absolutely. All right, I got one last question for you. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, was the keynote speaker yesterday.
Yes.
What's a big takeaway for you? Anything that you say, man, I'm going to go home. This is one of those things that was a big game changer for me.
Yeah, so luckily I've read his book before, and I read a precursor to his book, The Power Habit, as well. So if you aren't familiar with Power Habit, it's by a different author. I can't think of the author's name right now, but he wrote the foreword for James Clear. And so it's called The Power Habit. It's very interesting, and there's a few things from that I took into some of James Clear's thoughts. But one real big reminder from his actual talk was the small margins, making those 1 or 2% changes over and over and over again to really grow into something bigger, that compoundingness of just the small things, and not trying to do a silver bullet, not trying to do a big 10x, 20x, 30x, but just a 1% here, a 1% here, a 1% there type thing is something to really keep in mind, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, awesome. John, thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.